and more. You'll hear that come up quite a bit. So there's chanting of the holy names, and there's also literary kirtan. That is, the kirtan, the sound vibration is written down. And when it goes out into society, these books go from one hand to the next. They end up in the most amazing places. And when people open them, what do you think will happen if I open this? Do you dare me to open it? Just pretend like it's the first time I ever got a book and I'm about to open the book. What do you think is going to happen? All right, let's say one of you just you took the impetus to take one of these books out and distribute it when you were going to the store, for instance, and I'm the storekeeper. I picked it up and say, all right, let's see what they gave me. What do you think will happen when I open it? Seeds will pop out. Let me just try it. I'll just open it randomly and see what I read and see what somebody's going to look at for the first time. Are you ready? Yes. This is scary. Okay. If one wants to engage in yoga at home, then he has to make certain that his other engagements are moderate. He cannot spend he cannot spend long hours of the day working hard simply to earn a livelihood. One should work very moderately, eat very moderately, gratify the senses very moderately, and keep his life as free from anxiety as possible. In this way, the practice of yoga may be successful. That's some useful information. This is useful. CNN is not useful, guarantee you. It's not. It's not helpful. But this is helpful. These are seeds that actually can help somebody become free from anxiety. Now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught, do your own bhajan at home. You have to chant. That's one thing you have to do. And you have to turn off everything before you chant. Second thing, you got to read the Bhagavad Gita. You just have to. It's the best book in the universe. You don't want to miss it. You should read it every day. Third thing is, you should share Krishna with others. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's doctrine. This is what he taught. And the easy way is to get these little books. And you take them out, and instead of just walking to the store and then walking back, put a book in your pocket. And all the way there, pray to Krishna and say, please give me an opportunity to meet somebody that I can give this book to. And you know what? It changes an ordinary trip to the store to a spiritual excursion. Your vision of the world will change. And if you get in the habit of saying, here, have one of these, have one of these, have one of these, and give people a little invitation to the spiritual world, pass these on, you will become invigorated, and your own chanting and your own reading of Bhagavad Gita will be enhanced. So these are three ideas that you can practically implement. Well, you already did. We chanted 30 Maha Mantras, right? Yes. 31, some of us. And we also chanted one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Wasn't so bad, right? Take a few minutes, like, 7, 8 minutes out of 24. And now, look at these books. They're beautiful. They're easy to carry. And you get some of these, and you just take them with you in a bag. And whenever you meet people, you just say, here, I have one of these to share with you, and give them a book and see what happens. Take the risk and see what happens by sharing it with other people where you go. 3 things. Now we'll take some reflections, things that you heard so far that stuck in your mind. From the internet first, because we did ask them. Oh, you better turn your phone back on. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Please help yourself. One thing that you heard that stuck in your mind, useful. Yes.
Many beautiful points, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. One point that struck me was you mentioned having even one moment of clarity is better than having a life of full comforts but without any intrinsic realization.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we should pray for that. Try to get it every day. This is what we call inspirational sadhana. Don't do sadhana just because you made a vow or something like that, although you should. If you made the vow, keep doing it. But the fact is, you should try to get some inspiration from your sadhana. Pray hard and really lean into it and see if you can't take something away. Even if it's one molecule, one spiritual molecule can sustain you for the rest of your life. And if you do it mindlessly, you might miss it. So try really hard. Okay, what else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I like the point where you mentioned intense desire is needed, and Shastra also strikes the right chord, and
Yes.
wherever the attention goes, right, the energy flows there. So that
If your desire is intense, it'll come out in your prayer, in your voice, in the way you work. Yes, Balimardan Prabhu.
So yes, the important point is turn off your mobile devices, which is very, very, very practical, and it really brings the attention closer to Krishna.
Yeah. Even if you weren't going to chant, if you just turn everything off, you'll notice a difference in your consciousness. And we're definitely experimenting with consciousness. And if you add this clear background where you're not distracted and you chant, it'll take you beyond what you could expect. Yes, Aditya.
Maharaj, I like the point of news fast that you said.
News fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
So last year I had actually somehow installed the CNN app in my phone. I was in Wisconsin at that point of time. So I heard in a lecture that don't use CNN. I mean, don't watch it. So because that's what do we get from it anyway. So actually I was getting some seeds of anxiety when I was going through those. Then after I heard a lecture, I just uninstalled it. And after a few weeks, I was like...
Yeah, it's like willfully drinking poison, and then you put on notifications. So everything, something that you can't do anything about anyway comes up. They'll put it on your phone and you go, guess what? And that'll become the topic. When you sit down with your friends, with your family, the first thing that'll come to your mind is some peak experience you had by reading the news. Is, guess what? We're all going to die. It's like, well, I know that, but no. So don't overstimulate your brain like that, and you'll be able to follow some of these principles that Krishna's talking about. Two more. Yes.
I don't remember the verse, but you mentioned that like the lotus drop.
You cook it in water, put it in a little ginger, a little cumin, and you're fit as a fiddle. What else do you need? A little dahi on top. Get a cow, put a little dahi on top. Mung and dahi. It's like, well, I know that, but no. So don't overstimulate your brain like that, and you'll be able to follow some of these principles that Krishna's talking about. Two more. Yes.
It's like they remind you that they.
And then Ram Nam Satya Hai. There's this whole idea that, oh yeah, after all, this was true. And for 3-4 days, maybe a week, they become aware of the fact that this is really true, spiritual life. And then they forget again. Yes. Did we get the internet back? Okay. Did you get anybody? One, okay.
Maharaj, that you mentioned that chanting one time is much more blissful and sweet than working for 10 million years in Silicon Valley.
Yes. Correct. Yes, from the internet.
Yeah. Maharaj, can I say one from mine also?
What?
Can I say
Distribute the book.
Yeah.
When I first was introduced to book distribution in San Francisco, I joined the temple there in 1973, and book distribution is just starting to get going around the world, or especially in America, where it really started. And I heard about somebody in Los Angeles, California, who had been successful in distributing books and was going out every day and distributing 40 big books. That was unheard of at the time. So I went into the book room and I piled up 40 big books. And every day I'd sit there and chant my japa to those books. And I'd look at them and I'd just pray, Krishna, please show me how to distribute 40 big books in one day. And later he did. So all our advancement, whatever we want to do, whatever seva we want to do, it comes from asking Krishna. And that comes to the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now for the last word, we have our devotee who wrote in from the internet.
Yeah.
Or is that an essay there? Or we're missing him tonight.
Yeah. So he's in India, and he says, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Feeling so thankful to Internet and Ramananda Prabhu for live telecasting the lecture. I'm so happy to have your darshan and listen to your enlivening lecture. I'm feeling as if I'm sitting in the same ISP temple in the same row. My sincere gratitude to ISP broadcast team. And then he's also saying that yes, we complete both Sanskrit and English. And his sister's daughter Smriti also joined in the reading.
Jai Smriti, Haribol. But Radha Kripa, we do need you here for crowd control.
He has plenty to say on that, yeah.
Well, it's dancing. Then a few little tips about dancing is that here's one step called the Swami step that anybody can do. Now, also required 2 arms, 2 legs, and even if you don't, just pretend that you do. And the Swami step was taught by Srila Prabhupada himself. And you don't have to keep your arms up all the time because it may be a little difficult to keep your arms up. But at some point, if you raise your arms like this, and now the footwork goes like this. 1 foot over the other, and then cross over the other side like this. And then at intervals, you can put your car keys that'll all come fly. Moving out of joy that we're here, we're able to practice Krishna consciousness, we have breath in our body, and just be grateful and dance out of gratitude and sing the Mahamantra, and you'll experience the highest bliss just by doing this. Got the Swami step? Okay, you all ready? Now, it doesn't mean you have to dance. If you feel like you don't want to dance, it's okay, you can dance within your heart. Do make a little room for those who are, especially in the front. Move up really close to the front if you're gonna, if you don't feel like dancing, and leave some room. Be aware of those who are dancing around you so you don't block anyone, okay? Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to put the seats away, and we're going to stand up, and we're going to have a special ceremony where we can dance and see the deities. Thank you. Krishna, if I came to the temple and worshiped Krishna and sort of did my mantras, and he spoke to me and said, now you stay here and you surrender and just attend to my needs, he might say, I'm really sorry, but I got to go to work. I got other things to do. And therefore maybe he doesn't talk to us as much. But when we're ready for that, when we prepare ourselves and actually call out in a helpless way, Krishna will respond reciprocally. And this is one of the statements that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmana vartante manusya partha sarvasha. That as a devotee surrenders to me, I reward him or her accordingly. And therefore, it is optional to stay in the material world or to turn one's attention towards Krishna. And the best way to turn one's attention towards Krishna is through prayer. And the best prayer is this Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The acharyas recommend that one start one's day by chanting this Mahamantra a fixed number of times. And there are a few tricks to chanting that can really help so that one can take full advantage of the process of making this prayer every day. One of them is to turn off all electronic devices. And it's remarkable how much of a difference it makes. You may say, well, my computer's sleeping right now, so it's okay. Or my phone's on, it's on buzzer mode. It's not, it won't ring loud, but that's not good enough. You have to actually turn it off and maybe put it in another part of the city. And it's amazing how peaceful one can feel when one's not connected to all the information that's coming in from the outside world. It opens a whole nother realm of awareness. So this is just a simple trick to turn off all electronic devices. If you have a phone that's plugged into the wall and not a cellular phone, you can actually unhook it on the back. There's a little plug back there you can pull out, and it'll die. It'll die to the world. So try that, and then also turn your cell phone all the way off, and computer all the way off, and then also tell everybody else in your family or in your whoever you're associating with that I'm going to be meditating and I won't be able to talk. And however long the time is, for instance, if it takes you 2 hours, and say you're chanting 16 rounds a day, or let's say you're chanting 4 rounds a day, and you need for that a good half an hour, right? So then let everybody know that I can't be reached for half an hour, and that if you have something to say to me, unless the house is burning down or something like that. Winston Churchill used to, during the war, he used to put a sign outside, or he had a sign that he put outside, and when he'd take his afternoon nap, and say that at penalty of death if you wake me up, unless it's a national emergency, and even then you better think twice. So that sort of mood in meditation is really important. Of course, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is presented as being all-powerful, but I also have to be receptive to it. So there's some ways in which I can show that I'm receptive, and that is turning all my attention towards the chanting. And that requires a little adjustment. So turning off everything and letting everybody know is a really good start. Just telling everybody that I'm not available for any comments, and I'm not available to receive any information for the next half an hour, or hour and a half, 2 hours. Try it for a month, see what happens, how your life changes. If you ever have the luxury of that, say, I can't be reached for a month. You volunteering? Okay, you give him the mic. Let's hear what this is.
Generally, I try to keep my phone on airplane mode when I'm chanting, but many times in between the chanting, I try to see if there is something happening.
Yeah.
But today I just turned it off and just checked, and even it was good experience actually. And even in between, there was an urge to go and switch on and check actually what's happening.
Yeah.
But then I just kept the phone aside, so it was a good experience.
It is a good experience. I would describe it as a relief. And there's a kind of relief that one feels when one doesn't have to attend to all these things. And it's not just the cell phone, it's also our minds. Well, it's not just the cell phones, it's my mind. But that there's a way the mind's always on, and it keeps receiving signals, and I keep responding to them. So you have to give yourself a time each day to not respond to all of those stimuli that come into your mental system. In the Gita, Krishna says, Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantamapnoti nakamakami. That the way to become peaceful, I mean, you can say the verse several ways, but the way to become peaceful is to not become a kamakami. Don't chase after those stimuli that come into your, what is the kama? It's these desires to interact with the world. So what is the greatest need actually of the human being? You have to nurture the human spirit. And for that you have to introspect. Introspect. It means to look within. Kumbh Mela out there. Don't mind. Introspect is very powerful. Introspection is something that I may miss. I may miss it for the first, I mean, it's possible to miss it all the way through your babyhood. It's possible to miss it all the way through your childhood. It's possible to miss it through all your adolescent years. It's possible to miss introspecting even one time all the way through your adult years. And it's possible to miss it also in the later part of your life. In which case, you might live a whole life without even one time turning everything off, including your mind, and looking inwardly and trying to be prayerful, deeply prayerful. Is there one time in my life when I actually uttered a prayer that was so, where I felt so helpless, and I was so desirous of connecting with Krishna, that nothing else mattered in my life? Have I had one moment like that in my life? The Bhagavatam therefore says, better one moment like that than an entire lifetime of material engagement in which there's no recognition of one's self, of your real self. And that self is dependent on the Supreme Self, and at every moment the Supreme Self is showering His grace, but I'm not receiving it. I'm in the wrong wavelength. I'm looking somewhere else, completely distracted. So don't be a kamakami, says the verse, and compares the ocean as receiving many rivers, but it doesn't change its level. And so for meditating in the morning in our japa, chanting the holy names, we have to practice that these, as you mentioned, you turn your phone off, airplane mode, but still there's some urge there. It's like, what is it? Is there anything new? I mean, just think about the word news. What is news anyway? I mean, there's a 24-hour news cycle. When I was a kid, there was like one channel, I think, Huntley Brinkley. And actually you had to go across the room and turn the channel like this. You couldn't sit there and do it like that. I mean, there have been a lot of inventions that have been very detrimental to meditation, I must say. Makes it a lot harder. You can just kind of sit in a little bubble and click things and look at stuff. But what is news anyway? I always think about, what is news? It's just information coming from different places. Do you need to know it? Do I even need to know? Andrew Weil, who's advocates natural medicine. He was an allopathic doctor from Harvard, but he does a lot of work with helping people heal themselves in natural ways. One of the things he recommended for people was do a news fast. Don't listen to the news for a month and see how you feel. And it's amazing that because you actually don't have to worry about it. I mean, you can't do anything about it anyway. I was at a program yesterday, and one of the guests told me that someone told him something that really helped him, and that was that if there's a problem and you can do something about it, then do something about it. And if you can't, then don't worry about it. And it's similar that there's so much information coming into my mind all the time, and my senses pick up stimulate also. Prahlad Maharaj in his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev said that all the time my senses are pulling in various directions. They all have their particular way of thinking. They're actually very sensitive, and they have urges. So first step that Rupa Goswami gives, he's our main acharya, directly learned from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he comes out in his teachings and he says, start at the beginning. What was the first words he puts? Vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, jiha vegam, udaropasta vegam. He's talking about the urges of the senses. He said, learn to be dhira. What does dhira mean anyway? Dhira. Huh? Sober? Sober. Hey, that's interesting. You mean like we're generally intoxicated, right? Yeah, Kunti Devi said this in her prayers, that people get intoxicated. Janmaishvara Shuta Shribir Edamana Madapuman Naivarha Yavitatum Vai Twama Kinchana Gocharam. There's a way in which from my circumstances I'll pick up some way to be intoxicated and kapaline. And I get disturbed by various urges. So you have to practice. Practice not being disturbed by these urges. And the best time to do it is every day in the morning when you can chant. Krishna says in the Gita, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu Vishayan Indrayaishcharan Atmavasher Vateyatma Prasadam Arigachati. He said if you do this, you can actually get something. What are you going to get? You're going to feel some favor of the Lord, prasadi. Get some prasad. And how are you going to get it? Just by using your own volition, the power you have And this is your right to use this power to control your senses. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indrayaishcharan. Control your senses, regulate your senses. This is another way of saying controlling your senses. You regulate them. And one of the best regulations, the bhakti regulation, is take the morning time, so at least some part of your morning, to chant without any other distraction. So some of the distractions we mentioned, they may come from the ways in which I'm used to taking information from the outside world. And then also, internally, my mind may be overstimulated. Or even if it's not overstimulated, it's generally, it generally roams from one place to another. And in the Gita, Krishna recommends that you bring it back when you're meditating, and you put it in one place. And the place to put it is to put your attention on the Mahamantra. So again, the Mahamantra goes like this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Within the mantra. Actually, the mantra itself is not different from Krishna. It's a deity of Krishna. It's Krishna manifest perfectly in sound. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Nambina kichu nahiko aro choda bhuvanamaje. Understand that this is the greatest gift that you have. And there's nothing else to be had within the 14 worlds. You can't get anything like this anywhere else. And if you can convince your mind before you start to chant of this fact, that you'll get everything here, and if you go outside of this, you won't get anything. There's nothing to be had. But right here you can get everything. Then you can, maybe even for a moment, if you can have one moment, maybe 7 seconds of clarity, that's a lot, in chanting. And actually feel yourself praying, and feel yourself to be helplessly praying. Please engage me in your service. In one moment of clarity, chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can gain so much spiritual impetus that it will carry one, it will give one the wherewithal to actually control the senses, the urge of the senses. Because one realizes there's a higher prize than the little the little incentives that the senses are offering that just stimulate me and you'll be happy. But if one realizes there's something way beyond that that's achieved by carefully controlling oneself and focusing on the Mahamantra, then one can make spiritual advancement without any impediment, simply by that. So that's one of the great secrets that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought to this world, that everything that we need is contained within the holy name, and that we can take full advantage of it if we have good association and good instruction, and we practice. So let's chant the holy name now in sort of low voices. And we'll count them. If you hold up your right hand and repeat after me, I solemnly swear. No. I'm just going to show you that. On your hand, I solemnly swear to turn off all electronic devices before chanting my japa tomorrow. Well, what else can we get? Okay. Yeah, so let's try that. Starting tomorrow, turn off everything and just see what happens. Anything around the house that could go off, turn it off, and tell everybody that I'm doing this now. So you'll have, when you put that much intention into it, then you'll have more attention. The words are very related because they both have the word ten within, which means to connect. Attention, intention. If you make your intention known to the world that I'm going to focus now, then you'll get yourself some permission. Get a little shelter from the storm. The storm is coming in the form of all this information that's coming in from every direction, and it really doesn't make any difference. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter ultimately. Well, I'm not going to talk about politics because somebody's going to get upset. Who wins the election here, there, or anywhere. And it definitely doesn't matter who wins the cricket match. It really doesn't. It really doesn't matter who wins the cricket match. That's a direct connection to one's false ego. Anyway, don't get me started on that. But if we give ourselves some opportunity to shut down and purposefully, intentionally concentrate, we'll make spiritual advancement. This is a guarantee, definitely. So here's a way to count. Hold up your right hand. Put your thumb on the middle segment of your ring finger. Krishna 1. Move it down to the bottom of your ring finger, Krishna 2. The bottom of your little finger, Krishna 3. Middle of your ring finger, Krishna 4. Top of your little finger, Krishna 5. Top of your ring finger, Krishna 6. Top of your middle finger, Krishna 7. Top of your index finger, Krishna 8. Middle of your index finger, Krishna 9. And bottom of your index finger, Krishna 10. Let's try it quick. Krishna 1, Krishna 2, Krishna 3, Krishna 4, Krishna 5, Krishna 6, Krishna 7, Krishna 8, Krishna 9, Krishna 10. Okay, so you can count anywhere you go. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made little knots, and he counted on knots. He also chanted on beads under the Imlital tree. He would take the morning time to sit under Imlital tree when he was in Vrindavan and chant. He'd do his regulated chanting there. And he also made these knots, says Vrindavan Das Thakur, just to show the importance of counting how many rounds you're doing and how many times you chant the Maha Mantra. This is part of regulating the senses. I do this many of this mantra every day. This is such a powerful start in spiritual life. It's a wedge that starts to push all the other useless kinds of activities out of my life gradually. And you can start anywhere with some determination that this is how many I do no matter what. Even if it's 10 or even if it's 1. But you start, and consistency will save the day, being consistent. So let's try 30 times chanting the whole Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra, by the way, has 32 syllables. This is mentioned in the Shastra. It's 32 syllables, and it's 16 words. 16 words, 32 syllables, correct? Just making sure we have the right mantra. It's mentioned in the Shastra, iti sodasakam nam nam kali kalmashanashanam. It mentions how many syllables, how many words it has, and we've heard it from... Before us here tonight is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it took no ordinary journey to arrive here. Today we take it for granted that at a printing press we can print millions of copies of a magazine or a newspaper within a day, and after the day is done, that